Hot for TV.
Welcome back to the Doctor Who Too Hot for TV Advent Calendar. It's another day in December, and I'm joined by Toby Hadoke. Toby, how are you?
Well, so I love Advent. I love Christmas. So I'm full of seasonal cheer because I'm a sucker for it. I understand people who think it's all commercial and wrong, but I love the smell of cinnamon. I love the crisp of the air. And I love the fact that it's a build up to a time where you go, I can do what I like and it can be nice. So I'm putting it all out there for everybody who might be feeling a taste of humbug in their mouths. I'm gonna suck that humbug out of your mouth and replace it with the ending to a metaphor I haven't really thought through well enough. But or as human beings say, hello.
Well, it's true though, because Christmas makes the winter less miserable. January and February are miserable, but November to December are exciting because you've got that build up.
Yeah. And Christmas was always Doctor Who to me as well, Dylan, as I'm sure we'll discuss as I try to distract you from my opinions on the story in question, because I'm not sure I've got an awful lot to say. But anyway.
Well, let's talk about your history with annuals, Doctor Who or otherwise. Was it something you got as a kid? Is it something you picked up as an adult? Have you never seen one before?
Pretty much always part of my Christmas for as long as I can remember. Were they in the stocking? We had our way of doing things at Christmas was you had your stocking in the morning, which had generally your stocking fillers, but the odd slightly bigger thing. So I'm not sure that an annual might not have been part of that. But then we didn't open anything else until after lunch. Oh. So it meant that you eked out the day, and there was never this, we all dive and we all just tear our things off, and then you sort of have that sort of post-coital disappointment where you're just surrounded by mess and low self-esteem. And you also ran and you handed out the presents and people would open it in front of everybody. And so it was kind of a process that meant that you knew who'd given you what, and two, you savoured each one and got a view of what everybody else was having too. So I always had, but the reason I think the annual was in my stocking was because my main present was generally the Peter Haining book. Right. So my most memorable Christmases are from sort of 83. I was born in 74, so 83 onwards. I remember exactly where I was when I opened Doctor Who, a celebration, and that was the best present I've ever had. So the annual was always a sort of adjunct because I think they were probably more affordable, and I think there are things that were a good thing a relative could get you or something like that.
Yeah,
but I never quite got to grips with them, if I'm honest, because I love Doctor Who. I think I can say that. But I think my enjoyment has always been about sort of delving behind the scenes. I was asked a question recently about whether I can watch a story without thinking about how it was made and who made it. And I don't think I can. I think I have a cognitive dissonance. I think I can do both at the same time. But the annuals, to me, because they're a world of almost entirely fiction, I was desperate for there to be an article about a set designer or an old Doctor Who story or something behind the scenes. Because I've also always, with Doctor Who as it is now, I've always liked Doctor Who better from then. Yeah, I've got that Doctor Who self-hatred thing. It goes, yeah, well, it's all right now, but it was better in the... I'm whiz kid, basically. I'm whiz kid. So, of course, a Doctor Who annual is about current Doctor Who. Whereas the interest from... I was much more excited to get something that might have an article about a story made in 1965 or something. I was desperate to know about the past because I was in the present and I could get all of that, So whilst I wasn't ungrateful and it was nice to have them and I would pore over them, but also I think because, especially this one, 1980, I was too young to really understand the prose stories particularly well. So I'd read the comic strip ones, but also Doctor Who annual prose does seem to come from a different universe, doesn't it? They're not quite. And I think that weird one. What's that really weird Tom Baker one?
The Sinister Sponge.
There's a whole annual that looks like it's been drawn by somebody who's whacked out on something.
Yes,
And is that 76? I think
it is. Yeah.
And I remember a friend of my mum's got that at a car boot sale and brought it and gave it to her to give me when she came back from work one day. And I remember thinking, I actually don't understand what this is. And I think from there on, I think I'd got a slight disconnect from the annuals. So whilst I have them and I have them on my shelves, I don't have a complete collection. I don't have the Troughtons or that elusive first Pertwee, but I don't think I would spend serious money on completing my collection of annuals, because they're not quite the same as having, whereas Doctor Who, the monster book, I mean, I worship the ground that walks on, and I treasure my copy of that, and the Haining books, which were so important. So yes, I have I'm the worst person you could have asked to do this, Dylan. I'm aware of the annuals. I had them all. I was grateful for them, but I was always kind of hoping to get something from them that they didn't give me.
This is a familiar story, actually. I've done a few of these now, and the only person I have done one with who really is invested in the world of Doctor Who annuals is Gary Russell.
Right.
Most people, it is this thing of they owned some of them, because there were always things that, like, I got into Doctor Who in 1989, so the annuals had finished, but there was always an annual at a car boot fair, in a charity shop, something like that. So it was still an easy present, be it birthday or Christmas, for a relative to pick something up. And much similar to yourself, I wanted to know about Doctor Who the early years, a celebration, 25 glorious years. These were the books that really excited me. So it was picking these up and seeing these sort of slightly off-brand images, and then not having more of the factual stuff. I was a very weird kid. Like, my Christmas list was filled with Mythmakers videos and things like that. Like,
lovely, yeah.
Everybody else is sitting down to watch Morecambe and Wise on Christmas morning, a repeat of that, and I'm watching Derek Sherwin's Mythmakers VHS. So,
good man.
That was my childhood. So when you got something like one of these, it was a little bit like, well, I do love Doctor Who, but I'm not sure I love this bit of it,
Yes.
And as you say, it's an alt reality.
Mate, you haven't lived till you've tried to get the entire family at Christmas time to play the Doctor Who Adventure in Time and Space game, which even now I don't understand how it works. And that was on my Christmas list, and that was another of those weird sort of adjuncts to Doctor Who that I kind of had and was desperate to try and understand, but never actually did.
Yeah. Conrad Westmus is very fond of getting people, if you meet him in a pub with a group of other fans, to play the Weetabix game that was on
yes.
He's had them all printed up.
Oh, bless him.
And I've been with him 3 or 4 times where he's like, right, I bought this game, you've got to play it. And it goes on for hours and hours and hours.
Oh, well, he is beyond reproach. I barely know him, but he always smiles very gleefully when I bumped into him at the BFI. And when my leather satchel was temporarily, I thought, had been stolen or lost on a train in London, out of the blue, I don't know how he got my address, but he sent me a replacement.
Oh, wow. What a lovely man.
What a lovely man.
He is a lovely man. But and he'll be on one of these at some point over the next few weeks, or maybe he already has.
Excellent.
So we're talking about a story from the 1980 Doctor Who annual, which was released in September of 1979 from World Distributors.
Yes.
And it's called X-Rani and the Ugly Mutants.
Yes.
Is this a story you've ever been aware of beforehand?
Well, yes, because I have this annual and would have spent many a sort of bored afternoon, going to it and flicking through it and trying to get some connection to old Doctor Who through it. So, and I probably read it as a youngster, especially as it's the first story in the collection. And I definitely, when I came to do it for this, I recognized the artwork, particularly that sort of frontispiece where Romana looks like she's a sort of elf from Lord of the Rings, and Doctor Who Tom Baker looks like he's melted or mid-transformation into werewolf either. Or
because there is a thing within this story that the Doctor does mutate, but I don't think that's what this is supposed to be. I just think it's a bad drawing.
Yeah, no, that's not the intention. But I suppose the artist could say I was foreshadowing the fact that this is a story about metamorphosis. But I irrespective of the not particularly good likenesses, I do like the style of artwork. It's got a sort of dusky sort of fable-like, it's a slightly sort of dun and khaki hues, isn't it? But as ever with the annuals, a lot of the artwork sometimes has a very tenuous relationship to what's actually going on in the story. It's almost like they've got an image that they want to to pop in there, and there's a certain sort of abstractness, isn't there? That
Yeah.
albeit not as bad as the 1976 annual, which again I always found made it a slightly hard in. It's odd when you think about. I hate stuff these days where they talk down to young audiences or just assume audiences are thick, but there was an almost heroic refusal to sort of meet children halfway in these things, I think, and the expectations of what you would grapple with were, I think you look back on that now and go, they didn't try and give this much pizzazz, but yeah. So it's I will have read it but not remembered it, but I do like the artwork.
You've got to wonder with the artwork, were they working on the stories and the artwork at the same time and just sort of basically just about aware to each other that what each other are doing?
I know not, but that would absolutely not surprise me. You basically go, here's a few reference photos, because Romana is clearly wearing her Androids of Tara costume in one of them. I mean, the costume looks more like Romana than Romana looks like Romana, and they'll have had some reference photos, and obviously then they've got some that they kind of make up. I mean, the one on page 9, I'm not sure who it's supposed to be at all, but because I suppose that's Tom Baker, and the other one's X-Rani, but
it could just about be Patrick Troughton as well.
It could. It looks. I mean, it could be a dark-haired Barry Foster. It looks like somebody who's in a boardroom in a 70s drama. But again, that's okay. And there's some fun of the archaeology of that, of going, okay, so how have they arrived at this picture? I could, if I was bored one year in my retirement, probably spend a whole year working out where the pictures came from and why they're like that, and probably see some patterns and enjoy it. So it's all part of the rich tapestry of Doctor Who ephemera.
Absolutely. And Tom's outfit changes several times during the annual, but also during this story.
Well, it's a story about change, Dylan. It's the subtext that the artist is putting into his work. Yes, I mean, and a lot of that is probably to do with the reference material or whatever, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. Well, let's jump into the story.
Yeah.
So this story sees Doctor Who and Romana land on a planet full of hideous creatures.
Yes.
They're really quite judgmental about the appearance of these people from the offset.
The Doctor has we shouldn't get too worried about this. I think that there's a temptation to always, look at the past and be furious at the different mores and phraseology. But I was moved by mutants to normals 0, remarked the Doctor calmly. You would not today, as I'm quite close to a number of people who work in disability advocacy and representation, particularly in the arts, particularly in anything that might be aimed at children, and that sort of language would have a red line put through it straight away, that the doctor would consider the mutants to be not normal.
Absolutely. As you say, we'd not get too caught up in what we would do now versus then. But I don't think the Doctor would do that then either,
No, I don't think he would. And the language of the Doctor in the annuals is often clearly somebody who's never actually seen the program. But that's not just the annuals, as anyone who's seen the immortal phrase "die hideous creature die" will attest. But yes, it is almost slightly like the character of the Doctor has been run through translation software. It's almost like it's AI. It's AI. It's an AI. But yes, and they go straight into it, don't they? They essentially, the headline of this story is, they've landed on a planet and there's all these, to use the parlance of the time, deformed creatures.
Yeah.
Yes, they're the Doctor doesn't have the kind of empathy that we might expect.
No. And despite these creatures running away from them, Romana is just horrified by them all, which also doesn't ring true because she's not a screamer.
No.
So on this planet, they come across a bunch of these creatures who are fighting, and there's a veiled figure there who is the titular or eponymous X-Rani.
X-Rani, yeah. This is an X-Rani.
When I was a kid, I remember picking this up and going, So the fourth Doctor met the Rani first, and being very disappointed by the fact that it wasn't the Rani. But I suppose, squint your eyes, maybe it could be.
Yes, it could. I mean, I remember when Doctor Who fans were disappointed because Doctor Who magazine ran an article about the next series of the Sarah Jane adventures, and it said Sarah Jane and Luke and Rani will be doing this. And of course, there was a certain subsection of fans who went, "It's the Rani's back," even though that made no sense whatsoever in the context of either the way it had been dropped or indeed what the sentence actually said. But good old Doctor Who fans. But yes, she could be. I mean, if you wanted to retcon this, you could sort of have, the Rani's experiments creating the ugly mutants and all of this sort of thing. It is consistent with her modus operandi.
Yeah.
But it's funny though, isn't it? How this story is really interesting in how it sort of changes tack almost from page to page. So it starts off as there's this curious planet where there's all these funny mutants. And then they chase one of them, and then it's almost like they walk into another. I was brought to mind of the Blake Seven. Is it the one? What's the one with Frida Jackson and Richard? Where there's sort of people gathered around watching a thing. I think it's not Frida Jackson. Doesn't matter. Let's not get into that wormhole. But it did remind me of a sort of Blake Seven, a gladiatorial thing on a Blake Seven sort of planet.
Yeah,
where you've got this woman presiding over it, and yes, the whole thing is that she's got her face covered. And is basically watching a gladiatorial contest, isn't she?
Yeah, which I think she's controlling with her mind.
Yeah.
Because for some reason she just likes to keep people busy by making them have a scrap. And she tells Doctor Who that she has been trapped there. She was expecting fresh supplies of Bavita, I think it is.
Yeah.
Which is a food source, and nobody showed up, and she needs Romana to take her place to look after the mutants. And she basically forces Doctor Who to take her to her homeworld. It's very, as you say, like it changes page to page. It feels like a Bob Baker and Dave Martin script where, they can't stay in one place for too long.
Yeah, or even one kind of story. It's weird because you go, this isn't where I thought this was going, which in one way is very good, but it seems almost sort of casual the way it goes. It's going to be a bit different now. But also, did I miss they are so preoccupied with the veil over her face. And then that sort of doesn't really go anywhere.
I think it's to hide her beauty or something like that, but I don't really know. Oh, no. It protects the wearer from mutating because the Doctor starts to mutate a little bit, doesn't it?
Yes, but it doesn't really have there isn't a sort of moment.
No.
Seeing as they concentrate so much on it. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Maybe they didn't want to do that. But yes, because the Doctor starts mutating.
Which could be a very terrifying moment in many Doctor Who stories, but it's not really given the time.
No.
Also, K9's not there. They've said earlier that they've had to take K9 in for repair.
That was the thing that I thought was most true to the television series, was that they just have a brief moment to explain why the dog's not there this week.
Of course. Yeah, exactly. We can't go out on location.
Yeah.
Which you'd think he'd show up in the later part of the story because they go to this planet where X-Rani's from and she's going to fight the controller.
Yeah.
Who he says is a bad guy, but is actually not a bad guy. X-Rani had been keeping him prisoner.
Yeah. That's the big twist, really.
Yeah, big Stephen Moffat's like twist.
And the Doctor doesn't sort of tell us. The Doctor is going in to do X-Rani's bidding, but actually it turns out the Doctor knew all along that X-Rani was, full of crap, and then they have the reveal, which is I think quite neat.
Yeah,
it at least is trying to do something that is everything is not all it seems.
It's that sort of Galaxy 4 thing, isn't it? Of, maybe the ugly things aren't the bad things after all.
Yes.
It's a morality tale that has been done a few times in science fiction. But on this planet, all the men are very trendy and the women are beautiful or neatly dressed or something like that, which the Doctor thinks they'll fit in well as a couple, him and X-Rani, which again is slightly odd.
Yes, it's very odd.
And people have lasers in their hands.
Yes, they have micro lasers hidden in the palms of their hands.
Which, when Doctor Who mutates to scare the controller or to scare away the controller's guards, he gets one too.
Yes.
Now, maybe they meant they're just holding guns in the palms of their hands, but it feels to me like a bit Android invasion-y that they are
Yeah,
in the hand, right?
yeah, a bit Autony android invasion-y,
Mhm.
definitely.
Then the Doctor, just because, this is the story's got to wrap up, shoots her, which isn't the most Doctor-y sort of thing. Like, the Doctor does resort to violence from time to time. The character's not a pacifist. But this just seems the most basic ending you could go for, right? That, yeah, Doctor Who's going to shoot this person.
Well, having also got her to make him as ugly as possible so that he can scare the guards away. So he uses ugliness as a tool to make his way to where he needs to get to. And then immediately says, "Now change me back because I don't want to be ugly for too long." Essentially,
There's a lovely sort of artist's impression of what is X-Rani and presumably the Doctor's face as it's changing. But I think the book really misses a fully mutated Doctor, to be honest.
yeah, it seems odd that when you've got that as the story, and you don't need a reference picture for that.
Yeah,
You could just have something really sort of grotesque with a long scarf.
yeah,
And you go, oh, that's the Doctor as Beast or whatever. But no, it's one of those sort of more abstracty, slightly things because it's a picture of her in sort of mid shot and then a big close up of his face in the same shot.
yeah,
So again, it's like they're going for this slightly odd, abstract kind of
yeah.
visual thing.
And so the laser the Doctor uses that everybody's got on this planet knocks her out and stops her powers.
Yes, the laser beam. I mean, that's quite a throwaway as well. The controller just says, "Yeah, she won't be able to do anything now. Now that you've shot her." It's like, oh, okay. I think we needed a bit of Chekhov's laser beam early on.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
exactly. And then because she hasn't got her powers anymore and unconscious, all the people that have been mutated unmutate.
Yes, the laser hits the reset button,
Yeah,
and yes, no more mutants. Phew.
and there we go. And we're told the Doctor's going to go back for Romana, who's already making friends with a mutant now.
Yeah, and Bavita was bullshit.
It makes quite an interesting tea.
Yeah, it was a load of absolutely. It was that was all a lie. So, and much of this is dispensed with just in a kind of a very exposition heavy coda from the controller because yeah, that's happened. That won't happen anymore. That'll be undone. And oh, that was a load of old rubbish. Bye.
And that is it. This is not something that has any impact on the canon of Doctor Who, the world of Doctor Who. It is just the most sort of simple story you can get, and it's dispensed with, and we all leave none the wiser.
Yeah, but I and it's nice. It was actually nice because I kind of I could probably tell you whole sentences and screeds of dialogue from and anticipate what shots coming next of TV episodes that I've watched over and over and over again. It's quite nice to know that there are corners of the Whoniverse that will have new delights. And they're on my shelf. Should I decide to ever get them off? And the only time I get the annuals off the shelf is as I did earlier this year, is when I get some new bookshelves and move them from one room to another. But I didn't sort of sit down and read any of them. I remember the comic strip "Every Dog Has Its Day" from one of the. It's a canine heavy comic strip from one of the later ones. I remember that one I read lots and lots because it was a comic strip. But the stories, there will be loads that I've never actually even bothered to read.
What I'm finding more and more is it is very disposable, but then not everything has to be this major game-changing bit of Doctor Who.
No.
But it does feel like its own cosmos, and there must be somebody somewhere who got gifted a Doctor Who annual for Christmas, and their first experience was something like X-Rani and the mutants, or the mutations, the Ugly Mutants.
The Ugly Mutants, X-Rani and the Ugly Mutants. Yeah.
That must have been somebody's first experience of Doctor Who.
Yeah, especially because it's the first story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say on this particular story?
Well, no, I'm quite pleased we got as much out of it as I did because I read it when you sent it, and then I got my copy out, and I did think it's just a bit odd. It's nothing. There's, as I say, the differences between how we'd phrase stuff, covering. I think you would call it facial difference now, or physical difference, or whatever, is notable. But as you say, it strikes an odd chord even for the series.
Yeah.
At the time. But I think what surprised me was just how quickly from page to page it's like a fever dream in the way that it just goes from one thing to another to another to another, and you go, I don't know quite how we got to go to all of those places from where we started, but hey ho.
I tell you one thing about these annual stories is they're never boring.
No.
And I think I found them a bit boring as a kid quite a lot of the time, which is why I never
Yes.
got through them. But
Yeah.
visiting them now, and you are the 10th person I think that I've recorded talking to these, and I'm doing 24 of them. I'm never like, oh God, I've got to read that annual story. I'm always like, oh, I wonder what this adventure will hold.
Yeah, absolutely. And I struggled with them as a kid, so that interests me. That is a repudiation of the idea that stuff dumbs down unnecessarily now, because actually maybe I needed it dumber in order to appeal to me. But I'm glad that these things were story led. It was an attempt to have kids reading stories, and now this sort of approach would be priceless because nobody reads very much at all these days, it seems to me. So anything that is encouraging kids to be engaged with stories, because of course, unlike today, you had time to kill between series and you had to get your Doctor Who fix somehow.
We've got time to kill between series now, Toby.
Well, that's very true.
Well, I hope this Christmas you run downstairs and you have the new Billie Piper Doctor Who annual waiting for you to tear open and read her adventures with maybe the return of X-Rani, who knows?
I think X-Rani is ripe for a for a sequel. or 10, because then they could call it Rani X. Or X-Rani X. Charlie X-Rani X. Yes, anyway.
Excellent. Is there anywhere you want to send people on the internet to find you and your things?
Well, I have a Patreon at Patreon, Toby Hadoke combination of sorts. I'm excellent at marketing, aren't I? But I've got loads of podcasts out there that are free, that you don't have to do the Patreon. But I'm told I don't mention it enough. And I'm also doing an advent calendar, but it's not anything like as smart as yours. And I haven't worked out how I'm doing it yet. I need to ask. So you'll know how successful I've been. I need to ask somebody how to do a sort of graphic that opens. But I just thought, just because everyone's so miserable at the moment, and Doctor Who discourse has been sullied a little bit by all sorts of different things this year, I thought I'd just try and make people smile briefly in December. So I'm going to just have little curios and little cameos behind each door, either a Doctor Who person or a picture out of context, or a this or that. There's little bits just to maybe put a smile on somebody's face when they're on the bus or something like that. But I haven't quite worked out how I'm doing it, because I hope I'm not breaking any confidence here. This is not live. So although we are trying to channel the Christmas spirit, we are not actually steeped in it as we speak. So hopefully between recording this when I am and the listeners listening to it, I will have done something. If there's nothing out there, I've decided it's too hard and haven't done it. But I usually give myself too much to do, so I'll probably have done something.
Amazing. Well, I shall look forward to checking that out. We'll be back tomorrow with another peek inside the Doctor Who Advent Calendar and another annual story with another guest. But until then, I've been Dylan.
I've been Toby.
And this has been Doctor Who Too Hot for TV, the Advent Calendar.
Happy Christmas!
Happy Christmas.
Doctor Who, too hot for TV.
Incidentally, a happy Christmas to all of you at home.